You are now watching Bleav. Do you believe?
Welcome in to Bleav in Jaguars. I'm Jordan Lugo, joined by former Jaguars tight end Clay Harbor. Another week, another disappointing result for the black and teal. All is not lost, though. This season still has many twists and turns left in store for us, I'm sure, with 12 weeks left to go. But Clay, how are we feeling today, man?
You know, I'm a little hurt because I was at the game. It was my first game of the season, first Jags game of the season. I wanted to win. I wanted a W. Wanted some points. I thought it was going to happen. We got the Texans in here and we lost. So I'm a little hurt today, but, you know, you got to take the ups and the downs. And I think that, like you said, the season's far from over. And you know what I got to say to get this show started?
Hit him with it.
Get a big Duval.
Yeah, you got to keep that energy, right?
Win or lose.
Team's got to keep the energy.
And
Fans got to
dog's
keep the
barking
energy.
at me now, so
no worries. I get that all the time with Murray. She's sitting in my lap right now, being a nice little dog. But hopefully she'll keep that going. And hopefully your dog will give us some peace here to talk about the Jags.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to put her in a cage if she doesn't. Not a good
Reminder. Follow Clay on Twitter at ClayHarbs82, myself at Jordan DeLugo. Make sure to subscribe and review if you enjoy the show on your podcast platform of choice. You can also check us out on the Gen Jag YouTube page. All right. I think after losing 2 straight contests, I think it's only fair to start off talking about what's wrong right now.
Yeah.
Where does it start for you?
Man, so obviously you got these 2 straight, and Philly, I kind of just thought was, you know, one-off thing because being tough game. It's pouring rain. Trevor turns the ball over 5 times. You're playing against the Eagles, who are still undefeated in Philly. So in my mind, I said, okay, let's give these guys a break. They still kept it close after 5 turnovers. This is a legit team. They're going to come back next week against the Texans, right the ship. You know, the Texans haven't won a game this season. 0 wins until they play the Jaguars. Davis Mills, you know, they don't got much. They got Brandon Cooks as the only offensive weapon. Damian Pierce obviously is good too. And really, they just came out and laid an egg. And that was upsetting. It was hard to see, especially because it seems like there's been a regression in some people. So Trevor's young, but I think these last 2 games, I mean, it kind of, to me, falls squarely on Trevor's shoulders. And you're going to have that with a young quarterback. You're going to have some ups and you're going to have some downs. 5 turnovers against the Eagles, 2 big interceptions against the Texans. That one in the red zone, in the end zone. I mean, I'm watching that. I'm on my feet. He's about to score a touchdown. No, he didn't just throw that ball. That was even close. I think 2 or 3 guys might have picked that off. So for me, it comes down to, you know, Trevor's got to be better. And obviously there's other holes in the roster, but the first one, the most glaring one, is Trevor's got to be more consistent. He's got to stop turning the ball over, especially down in the red zone. Those are huge swings. Some of those are that's a 14-point swing. You're about to score, and maybe even you run the ball in. Doug, I don't know what Doug's. I know he loves to throw the ball in for the score, but sometimes you got to just run that thing in. So for me, it starts Trevor Lawrence has to be better.
Yeah. And I agree with that completely. The last 2 weeks, he hasn't been good enough for winning football. In Philly, I do think what happened in Philly was a bit of an aberration. Like you said, I think it was a bit fluky. But what happened in Philly is not what happened yesterday. And it's not what happened in the loss to the Commanders in week 1. I do think Philly is kind of an isolated incident with how that game played out.
Yeah.
But I also think there was opportunities in each of the 3 losses to win. You should have gone up 21-0 in Philly. You should have dropped 35 on the Commanders. You did not score in the red zone at nearly a high enough clip.
Yeah.
You left like 17 points on the board in the first half alone against the Commanders. And then same thing this week. You got to the red zone pretty frequently.
Yep.
You moved the ball well. 422 yards of offense.
Big offensive day.
And you just can't finish. You're 0 of 3 in the red zone. You're 0 of 3 on fourth down. I do think a lot of that goes back to Trevor Lawrence in these losses. But, I will say this. I don't think Trevor is the only issue with scoring points here. I think he is probably the biggest issue over the last 2 weeks. But looking at the entirety of this offense, that play, the interception in the end zone, it's flood concept. You have 3 receivers in a tight little area. But guess what? The Texans have 4 defenders.
Yeah.
You can't throw that football. And Trevor knew he couldn't throw that football. He said it after the game. So did Doug Peterson. You have the opportunity to certainly run the ball for at least a first down on that play, maybe a touchdown. And you can also it's 2nd and 1. If you don't want to run it, you're free to toss the ball out of the back of the end zone, throw it out of bounds.
That's what I was thinking.
You cannot. There was multiple options for a much better result on that play.
I didn't see what he had said. He just was saying he was trying to make a play.
He said he knows he couldn't throw it.
He just doesn't know why he did it.
Yeah, doesn't know why he did it. But he did do it, unfortunately. And that's one of those things that he's going to have to improve upon. No question about it. Like I said, the team moves the ball with the best of them. Outside of Philly, you're looking at 380 yards of offense in week 1.
Yep.
331 yards of offense in week 2, and you could have had more offense in that game, but you're up so much, you're not even really trying to put points on the board against the Colts.
Yeah.
Week 3, 413 yards of offense. Week 5, this week against the Texans, 422 yards of offense, 5.8 yards per play. Those numbers, again, outside of Philly, have them at 6th in the NFL in total offense, which, again, shows this team is moving the ball. Their failure, like we've said, is in the red zone. And I think another minor problem as well is a lack of explosive plays. I think a lot of the ball movement has just been a steady diet of first downs, getting 5 yards, 10 yards, 15 yards, but you're not picking up these big chunks down the field. I think really good offenses kind of need those to sustain and to make things a little bit easier on you, right? If you can get 40 yards in one play versus getting 40 yards in 8 plays, it makes it a lot easier for you.
Yeah.
And for me, we've talked about Trevor Lawrence has not been good enough the last 2 weeks.
Oh, yeah.
I also believe you're lacking an alpha receiving talent. And an alpha receiving talent in the NFL helps you all over the field, especially in the red zone. Because not only is that a player you can target, but it's a player that the defense knows they have to worry about.
Yep.
Again, Trevor can't make those mistakes in the red zone. And some of them have been mental. Some of them have been physical. Like he's had a couple misses, just missing the throw. He's also made bad decisions. And then I think you mentioned this. I don't know why they can't pound the rock a little bit more, especially inside the 20. And I know that's Doug Peterson's philosophy, but I don't understand it.
Yeah, in the last 2 games, I mean, who hasn't got going? James Robinson hasn't got going at all the last 2 games. He had 10 rushes for 27 yards against the Texans. He's got to do better. And I know Doug, he's like, okay, the run game isn't working with James Robinson, but I think sometimes you got to stick with that a little more and just keep the defense honest. And a game like that, or just go to ETN in the run game. ETN had 10 carries for 71 yards. Like we
only
saw that
2
tweet
in the second half.
Yeah.
What happened?
Yeah. I don't know. We saw your tweet. You love ETN. You said he's the best offensive weapon. So maybe they need to move him more, use him more on the ground, in the air, some screens, some quick passes. And then we got Christian Kirk. Last 2 games, I know against Philly, he ended up with like 6, but that was in the end of the game.
That was one drive at the end of the game.
Yeah.
Yep.
He didn't do anything the whole game, either game. This game, he had 1 catch for 11. We thought this guy was going to be one of the best receivers in the game. I was saying that he was underpaid after that big contract in the next 2 weeks. I don't know. Maybe I jinxed him. But another thing, Christian Kirk is not getting going. When he goes, the offense goes too. You got to get him involved early. I don't care if it's a couple screen passes, a couple 5-yard outs, stick routes. When you're a player and you get involved in the game early. For me, if I got a catch in the first quarter, I knew I was going to have a good game. It just snaps you in. Okay, I'm ready to go. Give me the ball. You want the ball. All the nerves, everything's gone. Just gets you in the flow of the game. It gets you in the zone. Christian Kirk, your big time free agent, number one wide receiver. You paid this guy $70 million. Like, come on, get him involved early. You can't have one catch for 11 yards. Against Philly, he had one drive where he caught a couple passes, one catch all game. Besides that, get Christian Kirk involved early.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. Only had 3 targets in this game. I think Doug Peterson talked about this a little bit. I think they were trying to get him open deep, which isn't really usually going to be a winning strategy against cover 2. Cover 2 kind of forces you, these cover 2 shells, to take what's there underneath. And guess what? Christian Kirk is good with the ball in his hands.
Yeah.
Like, you can get him the ball quickly, jet action, screens, mesh, whatever you want to do to get the ball in his hands quickly. And they just didn't try to do it. Instead, I think they were trying to hit some seam shots, which Trevor didn't even really attempt. But I did see a few routes of Christian Kirk's where he's trying to hit it deep over the seam down the middle of the field. I think it was unacceptable to not try to get him the ball more. I think every single week you have to have a plan and a backup plan to get Christian Kirk, Travis Etienne, and even James Robinson the football. Those are your 3 best offensive weapons, bar none. And they didn't do that this week.
Yeah, I agree. You got to have a plan to get those guys the ball. You got to get them going early too. When you get a guy going early, just the rest of the game flows. I'm telling you, get them involved early if you can. And then as far as the offense goes, and we're not talking much about the defense. Defense only gave up 13 points. I think defense played pretty well. Obviously, had the bonehead play by Trayvon.
Yeah.
With the offsides and then the unnecessary roughness. But overall, I think the defense played a winning game. And I think the same can be said in Philly. 5 turnovers. Yeah, they gave up a good amount of points, but you have 5 turnovers on the field the whole game. It's hard.
Yeah, I put more of those points in Philly on the offense than the defense because you're giving the Eagles the ball in these great scoring situations. You're allowing them to just keep running plays on offense. That was on the offense, in my opinion. I agree with you. I think the Jaguars defense is playing really well. They're 7th in defensive DVOA, and I think that's pretty steady. They've been right up there, Yeah, Dameon Pierce had a big run late in the game. What did he do before that? And he only averaged 3.8 yards per carry.
Yeah.
That guy is a beast.
Yeah.
I had him as an early 2nd round grade for a reason in the draft.
Oh, wow.
He has unbelievable power, unbelievable contact balance. He's quicker and faster than you think. And he's just a load to bring down. And for the Jaguars to only give up 13 points in a whole game, there's no reason that for this Jacksonville Jaguars team that if they only allow 13 points, they should lose a football game. That's unbelievable to me.
Absolutely, especially when you have 426 yards of total offense. That's a lot of offense. So, unfortunately, I think there's a lot to improve on, obviously moving forward. But, man, this is disappointing. And it's most disappointing because the Texans, we haven't beat them in, 9 consecutive games?
Yep.
Like, this is a team, if you want to win the division, if you want to be taken seriously, you got to beat the Texans.
Yeah.
You got to beat the Texans. This team,
and now you have to do it in Houston.
Yeah, now you got to go to Houston, do it. You got to show you can beat this team. You lost at home, Duval County. Alumni weekend. I was at the game with all the ex-players. You got to get the W for us. You got to get the W.
Yeah. Really unbelievable. And this was one of the first games. I think there might have been another game where they had a handful of drops, but I had 2 drops for Zay Jones, 2 drops for ETN, a drop for Agnew, a drop for Arnold, a drop for Ingram. You can't have that many drops in a game. And that kind of goes back to me to, okay, if your quarterback is having some struggles reading this defense, which he is. He was having trouble reading the cover 2. He wasn't comfortable. He wasn't taking the underneath stuff. He was trying to force it down the field. He's having trouble mentally. Your receivers are dropping some passes. Why do you not turn to the run? And you look at what has happened with the last two opponents the Jaguars have had. They turned to the run and they outlasted the Jaguars.
Yeah.
The
And
Eagles and the Texans both did it.
the Bears beat the Texans without a quarter. Like, that game, Justin Fields was just throwing picks. I think he completed like 10 passes. He's ran the football on them the whole game. Second half, got a couple of big turnovers, ran the football, won the football game. Chicago Bears. The drops, you got to cut out the drops. Zay Jones, I know he was off last week, but I mean, he had some big drops that drop early over the middle. He had another one. Evan Ingram had a nice game. I liked him coming up. You're showing this guy can be a playmaker, and this is why you brought him here. But catch the football. You're getting paid a lot of money to catch a football. Catch a football. I hate drops. It gets in the quarterback's head. That's one thing that affects a quarterback. Okay, now he's saying, okay, if I throw this ball, this guy can actually catch it. You got to catch the football, even if it's not in the perfect position. Young, second-year quarterback, 23-year-old guy. Catch the ball. Catch the ball. We eliminate those drops. Maybe it's a different game. Obviously, Trevor's got to be better in some situations, but you guys got to help him out here too.
Yeah.
Catch the football.
Yeah, again, I think the main catalyst for losing has been just the red zone play as a whole. From the receivers not doing well enough to Trevor Lawrence not doing well enough to not running the football inside that 20-yard line. I think that's been the catalyst for this losing, these three losses. How does a team, and also play late in the game on both sides of the ball has not been good enough. When you're in these one-score games, which the Jaguars are 0-3 in these one-score games, they don't look like they know how to finish. And they're a young team. They don't know how to finish. But how do you get a team to learn how to win and how to finish not only drives, but games?
I mean, it comes down to Doug because, I mean, he's running the offense and he's obviously running the team. And I know the system he has is a good system. They put a lot of emphasis on red zone. They have a whole day basically predicated to red zone on Friday, red zone day, Friday practice. The Andy Reid at Tree, you see the success he's having in Kansas City. Travis Kelce, 4 touchdown passes last night. I think he's the greatest tight end in the history of the NFL receiving wise. Gronk's the best blocking all around tight end. Travis is best, even better than Tony Gonzalez in my opinion.
I agree.
But, yeah,
unbelievable football player.
Unbelievable football player. But it just comes, the windows are smaller, everything's tighter, things happen faster. There's not as much space. The red zone's tough. You got to take the defense, you got to game plan some specific plays that work against their red zone coverages. And then you just got to make plays and you got to make them quick. The red zone, everything happens faster because what they say, touchdown, check down mentality. If you don't have it, throw the ball away. You got to leave with points. We got to leave with points. I mean, if we score, a touchdown, that's a completely different game. They're in the red zone, the interception. You can't turn the ball over in the red zone. That's a huge thing that coaches go over. You can't turn the ball over. Touchdown, check down. Everything happens quicker. Windows are smaller. Everything's magnified down there. And you just got to execute. Young team, they got to get better there. They got to put more time in. I don't know if you got a game plan a little better in the red zone, but something's not working there. So I'm interested to see next week what happens.
Yeah, absolutely. That'll be against a defense that they're familiar with in Indianapolis. So yeah, very frustrating. This is a young team that clearly their variance is extremely high from week to week in terms of who they can beat, who they can hang with, who they can lose to. We've seen them beat some of the best teams, hang with some of the best teams so far in the NFL. We've seen them lose to the worst team in the NFL. So I really think it is all on those players, really, and obviously the coaching. But it's all within their control. Like they have the ability to go out and be one of the best offenses in football in a given week. And I don't think it's really about what the defenses are doing to them. I think it's about what they're doing themselves.
Yeah, and that's the thing that's frustrating is because, I bring up the Bears a lot because I'm in Chicago. I watch a lot of Bears football. The frustrating thing about this Jaguars team as opposed to the Bears, trust me, it's frustrating watching the Bears too, but the Jaguars are shooting themselves in the foot They have the plays, they have the yards, they're moving the ball, then they get a penalty. Then they just drop a football. Then they just throw an interception. They have the team, they have the talent to do this. They're not a team like Chicago that just doesn't have the players right now. Doesn't have the offensive line, doesn't have the receivers, doesn't have the talent. They do. They're just shooting themselves in the foot. That's why it's so frustrating for me with the Jags. They can be better, and I think they will improve. Moving forward, you got a tough game against the Colts. The Colts know what the Jags did to them last time. It's going to be a huge game. They're going to come back. They're on fire. They want to beat the Jags bad. So next week's a huge game. I know we're not done talking about this Texans game. We're still upset about it, but it hurts a little more because you know what the talent this team has, and they can be a good team watching them. So I agree with you.
Yeah, that's easily the frustrating part of it. You know, there is a lot going well, though, right? This is a young football team. This is a franchise that has been in the dumpster, the basement for so long, and you see signs of progress. I think one of those big signs of progress just it is moving the ball well. They have the ability to march down the field every time they get the football. The offense is well designed. Every time that Trevor Lawrence drops back, there are answers. Whether he's finding those answers or not, that's on him. But it's well designed. It's a really well designed passing offense. I love looking at that. I love watching that in between the 20s. It's not getting the job done in the red zone right now. And I think, like we said, part of that's talent, receiving talent. Part of that's Trevor. Part of that's not running the football. Just got to get it all cleaned up. But what's going well? Moving the ball is going well. And Travis Etienne. Goodness, you mentioned him. I talked about him yesterday on Twitter. I said he's the Jaguars' best offensive
I love
weapon.
this guy. He's so quick.
Yeah, and the reason I say he's the Jaguars' best offensive weapon is because he is the most talented. I mean, I think Trevor is more talented overall. I think maybe Brandon Sheriff is more talented overall. But other than that, Travis Etienne is the most talented player on that offense. He seems to move when you're watching him. He looks like he's moving at a different speed than everyone else on the football field.
He is. His
And I
quickness.
know he ran like a 4.4, which doesn't like blow you away. It's fast. Don't get me wrong. Like 4.4 is fast. But I think he runs faster on the football field than his 40 would even suggest.
Yeah, this guy is he's special. I knew he would have a breakout game, and I think he had one here. He had 111 yards, 112 yards of total offense, 3 catches, 43 yards, 71 yards rushing the ball. He's a guy that's just going to continue to get better, and he's just so explosive, so quick. It's like you said, it's true. It's like he's moving at a different pace. Like, what was his agility drills in the combine? I'm gonna look that up for us. But
yeah,
man, he can catch, he can run, he's quick, he's not scared either. Like, he'll throw it in there. Some of these backs are scared to get. He's gonna throw it in there. I love that about him. I like this guy a lot, and Doug's doing a good job of getting him the ball. That's something that we both agree on. We think that he's going to keep expanding, keep getting better, and keep becoming a bigger part of this offense. Now we just got to make sure everybody else comes along with them, and the Jags going to be a problem.
Yeah. So our boy Travis, he decided not to participate in the agility drills.
Oh, man. That's
So,
quick.
you know, maybe that's one of those things where you don't test it well, but you can see it on the field. You
On
can
the film,
absolutely see the
you're watching the
elusiveness.
game. You can see
Yeah,
that.
absolutely. The elusiveness, the quickness, the overall speed. He's showing contact balance the last few weeks. He's showing some more power the last few weeks. I just think when you look at him, this offense is missing explosive plays. He is that guy that is going to give you those explosive plays if you keep feeding him the football, if you keep getting him the ball in space. And Christian Kirk can do that too. And James Robinson can be a steadying force. I think those 3 players are your key players on offense. And now you have to get everyone else involved. You have to get Ingram involved, Zay Jones, Marvin Jones, who had a very good game for the Jaguars this week. But those are your 3 focal points, in my opinion. And I think all 3 of them have played well this year when given the opportunities.
Yeah, and you got guys that have shown they can do it. So you put it together. You got the receivers, you got the running back, you got the Thunder, and you got the Lightning. That's a frustrating part about losing these games. You got way more weapons than these opposing teams. You got a better team.
Yeah.
You got a better roster than the Texans. Better quarterback. Better everything. You got to
Yeah.
start pulling out these victories.
Yeah, and I know we're supposed to be talking about what's going well right now, but I keep going back to it. Like, has Doug Peterson been out coached the last 2 weeks? Not from a schematic standpoint, but from a game management standpoint.
I mean, you could definitely make the argument he has. Sirianni had a heck of a game, and against the Eagles, obviously, I don't want. I heard people saying that, but Sirianni had some big fourth downs, was taking the play out of Doug's playbook and all that stuff. But Trevor had 5 turnovers. I just go back to that. Those guys was fumbling the football. They have a chance to go up 21-0.
Yes.
Instead, you miss it. You miss a wide open touchdown, and then you fumble the football 2 plays later. I can't say that, but this game.
But the Eagles made the adjustment to running the ball. The Jaguars didn't.
They did. They did make that adjustment to running the football, and you're right there.
And it was such a stark contrast between the press conferences because Doug Peterson, after the game, he said, "I'm not going to try to let weather impact our game plan much." And Nick Sirianni said the exact opposite. He said, as soon as we saw that forecast, we knew what we had to do.
Yeah, that's true. He made the adjustments. Doug didn't. So, I mean.
And I know it doesn't just come down to that. Trevor did not play well enough in either game.
Yeah, but if
the plays were there to be made for Trevor.
Yeah. The first time he fumbles,
and that is a credit to Doug because Doug is designing and calling these plays.
Yeah,
but if you know your quarterback's struggling, if you know your receivers are struggling, what do you do?
He gets a little too pass happy, and in 2nd and 1, maybe we get the first down, run the football. You could run it in the end zone. Who knows? I disagree with some of the calls. And Doug hasn't been on his game. He's a great play caller. He's a great play designer. But sometimes he gets too caught up, I think, in wanting to throw the ball and do things a certain way. So I think everybody has their weaknesses. So we're going to have to take the good with the bad there, I think.
Well, and the thing about it is if they did execute, he would look like a freaking genius.
Yeah.
Because the plays are there to be made almost every time. So that's like a tough catch-22 like dichotomy right there. Like, yeah, the plays are there to be made, but if you don't have the players that are going to make them, maybe you need to adjust.
Yeah.
For him, he's just saying, no, I believe they're going to end up making them. They're going to make the plays, and we're going to end up winning more than we lose. But the last 2 weeks, that has not been the case.
Yeah, I hope he's right.
Yeah, I hope he is too. But yeah, talking about that defense, Mike Caldwell deserves a ton of credit. I think the defense has been really well coached. I think overall, the defense again played really well in this game. And over the last 4 weeks, I think coverage has been a strength of this defense, of this football team. They're not giving up a ton of yards through the air. And I think Tyson's playing pretty well. I think Shaq's playing pretty well. Darius Williams has really rebounded from a tough start to the season at the nickel. And I think Cisco and Rayshawn Jenkins are getting the job done.
Yeah, they've really stepped up. And I know I was critical of Rayshawn Jenkins. I think one of our past podcasts.
Yeah, I mean, we all have been at some point, right? He's not a perfect player.
Yeah, I've been critical of him, and I think that he's improved though. I think that he's shown that he's gotten better, and he's someone that you can rely on a little bit more. I mean, the last 2 games they've done a good job, good enough job to win games. They've been put in some tough spots, and I mean, if you give up 13 points, I mean, you should be able to win a football game, I think. So, I think
question.
The defense is improving, and I love Devin Lloyd. Devin Lloyd, I think, just keeps flashing every week, and I heard now he's the favorite in the Rookie of the Year, Defensive Rookie of the Year voting, which is just crazy because he wasn't, one of the big names at the beginning of that draft. Trevon with Trayvon and
Aiden
Hutchinson, Thibodeau, Stingley, Sauce, all these guys, and then Devin Lloyd's a guy that's the favorite. So I mean, it's a testament to him, Balky, bringing him in here, making that move to get him. So some good things there on the defense. We got some good young pieces. I still like Trayvon. I know he's not really getting many sacks right now, but he's shown up in the run game. He's making some tackles. He's not a bust by any means. And
No.
when you look at his
And that's another
counterpart,
team that just wanted to run the ball.
yeah, they want to run the ball. They're not going to give Davis Mills a ton of dropbacks and a ton of 5 to 7 step drops to try to throw the ball and beat you with Nico Collins and Brandon Cooks and Farrell Brown and OJ Howard. So,
Yep.
I mean, you don't have many opportunities there. They're going to run the ball down the hill with Damian Pierce. And the fact that he will play in the run game, a lot of these big time DNs, they don't want to play in the run game. They want to rush the passer.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I get paid for sacks. I get paid. This he plays in the run game. I'm excited about what he's going to become as he continues to improve.
Yeah. Now we're going to talk about the state of the team in here in a second. The overall state of the franchise, what direction they're moving in. I did want to ask you though, what do you think about the run defense right now? Because there's some people out there that I'm seeing that they're pretty low on what's happening with the run defense. I'm curious your thoughts.
I mean, it's tough to see all these yards they've given up, but I mean, if you look today, like we said, Damian Pierce, he only averaged 3.8 yards a carry. He didn't even have 100 yards. This guy runs hard. He's a good runner. Against the Eagles, that's tough. You're on the field. They got worn down. They just started running the ball on them all day. I think obviously, Fatukasi is a big part in the middle there. You probably need a couple more defensive interior players that can really plug up those gaps. I like the linebackers. I think we got it there, and I think they'll improve. But I think, honestly, it's just the defensive interior. A lot of these guys aren't big enough outside of Fatukasi. So that makes it tough to really plug up the holes, keep the blockers off of the linebackers, and give them an opportunity to make the plays.
Yeah, I would agree with that a little bit, but overall, I'm not concerned with the run defense. Foley is not out long term.
Yeah.
He should be back soon. I think Corey Peters did fine. I think against the Eagles, you faced probably the most dynamic rushing offense in football.
Oh yeah.
First or
been able to
second.
figure that out.
That again to me is a one-off. Against Houston, yeah, it didn't look great on the last drive when Damian Pierce kind of went beast mode on the Jaguars. But again, you held them to 13 points. You held them to 3.7 yards per carry on 31 carries. Excuse me.
Yeah.
I think the run defense is fine, and I think people that are kind of hitting the panic button on that are missing the mark a little bit.
The Jaguars averaged 5.2 yards a carry. The Texans 3.7. The Texans had 116 rushing yards. The Jaguars had 136. I mean, we outrushed them. I think that, you showed you had fewer rushes with more rushing yards.
Yeah.
End of the day, that's winning football. You had more passing yards. You had more rushing yards. Jaguars 286 pass yards. The Texans 132. Only place we didn't beat these guys was on the scoreboard. And in the turnovers, Davis Mills didn't turn the football over. That's the difference.
Yeah,
Trevor had
didn't
2
give him the
interceptions.
opportunity to.
Yeah, so no turnovers. They played winning football. We didn't beat them on the scoreboard. Beat them in the stat book. Didn't beat them on the scoreboard.
Yeah. So looking at the state of this team moving forward, it's been 5 weeks. They're 2-3. I think in the short term, obviously, as we've talked about, there's still some questions that have kind of popped back up. The red zone scoring, the finishing. Can you find some balance? Can Doug kind of take a look in the mirror and be like, all right, 2 of our best offensive players are in the backfield. We got to get them the damn ball. Help out your young quarterback. And then, again, this is just short-term stuff like winning next week, winning in the upcoming weeks. Can you finish against him? You have to. And the only way to figure out how to finish, in my opinion, is to go out there and do it. You have to just keep trying, keep getting more experience, keep having these opportunities to do it. There's no other way. There's no secret sauce to figure out how to finish a game. You just have to be mentally tough. You have to be confident, and you have to be well prepared.
Yeah.
And so far, it hasn't been enough.
Yeah, they've shown that they can play and that they're a quality team. But the obviously you want the record to show that. You got to, for me, you got to win. You got to own this AFC South. It's not a strong it's not a strong division this year. You got to own the AFC South. It's not a strong division. You beat you beat the Colts, then you come here and you lose to the Texans. The Texans. This team is not a good team. They don't have weapons. They haven't won a game. You lose the Texans, but moving forward, I think they stay the team. You know, all the things that we've said, I think, are still true. I think Trevor has had a couple rough games here. I think he's going to get back on track. You're going inside, or you're going. No, yeah, they're back. They're going to Indianapolis.
Yeah,
Going to be in the dome. Going to have a good opportunity here to get back on track. I think Doug puts together a good game plan. They come back and they beat the Colts and they get back to even. And
all right.
First
We
place
locking it in right now? Jags
I'm locking
over
it
Colts?
already. I don't need any time. I don't need to see what's going on this week. They're going to have this W. They're going to come away with the win. The Jaguars are going to improve. They're not the same. I know people are going to say, and here we go again. Typical Jaguars. This isn't the same Jaguars teams. Trust me. I played on those Jaguars teams. I played on those. This is
deeper,
different team.
Yeah, if you look deeper at what's happening, this is not the same old Jaguars. And if that's your takeaway from what you've seen through the first 5 weeks, I just don't think you're paying attention, or you're just seeing what you want to see.
Yep. It's not the same Jaguars, guys. This is not the same old Jaguars. Are going to lose games. Get your hopes up early in the season. This is a different team. Why? You got a good coach. You got a good offensive coordinator. Trevor Lawrence is going to improve. You see the statistics there. You see the numbers. You got the yards. You just got to take care of the football in critical situations. This team will improve. The defense is playing well. The offense eliminates the turnovers. I still think this team wins the AFC South.
Yeah, I do too. I'm less confident right now than I was because, again, they have shown the variance. They have shown that they don't know how to win close games. And they're going to have to win some close games at some point.
Yeah,
they're not just going to be able to blow everyone out. If you can't win a close game, you're not going to make the playoffs.
No.
So they're going to have to figure that out. Will they? I'm hopeful that they can, but we haven't seen it yet. I think that they will, because I think, like you said, I think they have the best head coach and quarterback combination in the division. And I think that they have the best defense in the division. And I think you combine those three things, and to me, they're going to get the job done. But Trevor's going to have to make strides and play better than he did the last 2 weeks. And people are trying to bury this kid. Did they forget what happened in week 2 and week 3?
Yeah.
Like when people, he's still thrown 8 touchdowns to 4 interceptions. Like, he's still done a lot of really good things. It's just a couple bad weeks for a young football player. I don't understand these people who are out here burying the guy in year 2, which it's year 1 in Doug Peterson's system, when he's had plenty of ups this year. It's not like he's just been bad all year. Like, this guy has shown some tremendous moments. And even against Houston, he had some absolute dimes on Sunday.
He did, yeah.
It's just crazy to me that people are trying to call this kid a bust.
We're still in a good spot. Me and Jordan agree. This is not the same old Jaguars team. They're going to continue to get better. They're going to win a couple games coming up here. And this team is still a player. And we think that they still are a playoff team. So we're not giving up on these Jags just because these last 2 weeks, these 2 tough losses. I know they just lost to the Houston Texans. Still believe in this team. And I think Doug Peterson will come back with a good game plan. Trevor Lawrence will bounce back, have a big game. Jags win, moving forward, get the W. We get back on track. Jags to the playoffs, AFC South champions.
I love it, man. So I will say this. If they were not in the AFC South, I might have a really hard time believing that they could be a division champion.
Yeah.
I think it's due to the fact that they're in the AFC South.
I'm not saying, it's definitely because they're in the AFC South. I agree with that.
Yeah. So, and the Titans have won 3 straight. Colts have won 2 out of 3. So it doesn't look how it did just a couple weeks ago, but
I know.
You still have everything right in front of you, every opportunity. Go take down the Colts, get yourself back on track. And then you have the Giants, who are all of a sudden 4-1, and the Broncos right after that. I think those are all winnable games, but you got to go do it against Indy to get this thing going back in the right direction. Because if you drop 3 straight, it is incredibly difficult to crawl back from that.
Oh, it's almost impossible.
Yeah. So it's a must win of the highest order in week 6 for the Jaguars. As we mentioned, I think offensively, you just got to make sure early on you are featuring Christian Kirk, Travis Etienne, and James Robinson much more than you did last week. There's absolutely no reason for Christian Kirk to receive 3 targets against cover 2 when you can get him
No,
the ball quickly. That's
give him the
crazy.
ball in the middle of the field, man. I can't believe Kirk. I feel bad for Kirk, man. The guy wanted the rock, and I know what happens sometimes. Marvin Jones got a lot more of the looks last week, and obviously Evan Ingram, but you got to get Christian Kirk, big money guy, one of the top receivers in the league so far this year. Up until yesterday, really fell behind, but you got to find a way to give him the ball early.
Yeah. I know I said I think it's reasonable to kind of question the game management of the last 2 weeks offensively, but I will say this. I know how Doug handles things, and you know how Doug handles things very well, better than I do.
Yeah,
But I've been around him now, seeing how these things go. I know how he handles things publicly with the media, and I know how he handles things privately with that football team. And there are not many coaches on this planet that you would rather have trying to steer this ship and get through some adversity here
yeah,
with
he's
a
been
young
through it
football
all.
team.
He's seen it all. He's seen it all as a player. He's seen it all as a coach. Doug knows what he's doing. He's won a championship before. This guy knows how to get through some tough situations. So I still believe in Doug. I believe in him, and I think he'll figure this thing out.
Yeah. So we're feeling, disappointed, obviously, but still overall optimistic about the direction of this football team.
Yeah,
I think that's fair to say.
yeah, same. Disappointed, still optimistic. Still think this division's winnable. We got some winnable games coming up here. Let's go.
Yeah. Yep, that'll do it for today. We got to hit them with a quick.
All right, Duval. Tough loss. We're coming back. This isn't the same old Jags. Keep your head up, guys. We got this.
Yep. Have a great one. Appreciate everyone for tuning in. Quick reminder, follow Clay on Twitter at ClayHarbs82, myself at Jordan DeLugo. Please subscribe and review if you enjoy the show. And again, you can check us out on your podcast platform of choice, Bleav in Jaguars. You can also check us out on the Gen Jag YouTube channel. So thank you so much for being here. Hope you have a great rest of your Tuesday, and 12 more weeks to get it done here for the Jaguars. Got to take down Indy in week 6, and we'll be back to talk about that later in the week.